Another Chinese state-backed firm looking to gain foothold near a U.S. military site. An investigative journalist joins us to discuss. Residents from northern China report cases of sudden death as the pandemic continues to ravage the country. A new diplomatic framework. Beijing is looking to revamp its foreign policy under the guidance of its leader and the Communist Party. And rocked by a dilemma, Taiwan's beloved rock band reportedly torn between supporting Beijing's propaganda and risking serious repercussions. What do you think? Let us know down below and subscribe if you haven't already. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Don Ma in for Tiffany Meyer. A China-owned firm placing its new plant near a U.S. military site. C Nanotechnology is planning on building a new facility in Kansas, located only 70 miles from the Whiteman Air Force Base. The firm produces materials that are mainly used in high-tech, ranging from computers to lithium batteries and electric vehicles. And this new Kansas plant, which is entirely owned by its Chinese parent company, will focus on making liquid conductive paste for EVs and other devices. The Daily Caller recently conducted an investigation into the matter based on research conducted by the Heritage Foundation Oversight Project and Heritage Action. The report found that C Nano has recruited dozens of Chinese Communist Party members into its cabinet, even operating a party branch within its own corporate structure.
It has dozens, in fact, 28 members of the Chinese Communist Party in its employ. It actually advocates for the integration of the Chinese Communist Party with its corporate governance structure.
According to the company's business filings, C Nano has been involved in a number of Chinese state-backed projects, most notably a high-tech initiative called the National 863 Program.
U.S. Director of National Intelligence has said that the 863 program aims to, quote-unquote, clandestinely acquire U.S. technology and sensitive economic information. And so it focuses on programs to develop things like exotic materials, bioweapons, lasers.
What's more, C Nano's 2023 investment plan specifically mentions technology transfer as part of its intended operation. The company and its founder have also reportedly interacted with the CCP's United Front Work Department, an operation widely seen as a way for Beijing to leverage its influence overseas.
June 2021, this individual attended a United Front Work Department event in China concerning, quote-unquote, overseas Chinese enterprises. And at this event, he gave a lecture about operating in foreign markets.
In response to the new plant, Kansas Congressman Jake LaTurner said, quote, ensuring CCP-backed companies are not operating in Kansas is one of his top priorities. What kind of technology could Chinese tech firm C Nano potentially get its hands on? Is there any way to prevent this? If the company succeeds, how would it impact the lives of everyday Americans? We sat down with Jonathan Pelson, author of the book Wireless Wars, to discuss. He's also a former chief convergence officer for British Telecom. And here with me is John Pelson, author of the book Wireless Wars. So this Chinese company building a facility so close to a military base, what's the purpose here?
Whenever you're trying to get information on a wireless facility or wireless transmissions, either to the satellites or airplanes and so on, there's no substitute for proximity. You really want to be right next to it, at least within a few miles. And China knows that if they can put a base close to the B-2 base at Whiteman or next to the very sensitive operations at Fort Leavenworth, that gives them access to information they can't get through a balloon or through a satellite or through any other intelligence gathering. The CCP views America as an enemy, and we have to keep that in mind when they want to put a high-tech facility right next to secure military bases like this.
And now, on this subject of Chinese-affiliated companies or entities buying land or building facilities near military bases, how do we prevent this from happening?
Well, here's the funny thing. China's using a very clever technique where they're using a company in plain sight to do something because we are a country of laws. If they want to put a facility there and they follow the technical letter of the law, it's very hard for America to block them from doing it. But the good news is, when they do it like this, it's in plain sight. They have to write contracts. There are public buildings that you can see. You see the comings and goings of the company can't be done in secret because that is not following the law. So we have to use this to our advantage and say, use all this public information to see who's doing it, who's really operating at CNano, and what is their affiliation with the government in China.
So one of the objectives for CNano, potentially, quoting the report, is technology transfers. What does that mean?
That transfer of technology is really what gave China a 20 or 30-year boost in catching up and now in a lot of ways passing free countries around the world with the technology. This transfer is really just a way of strong-arming companies who are trying to make a buck into turning over technology without realizing the consequences.
All right, thank you so much today, Jonathan, author of the book Wireless Wars.
Hey, thanks, Don.
A new diplomatic agenda centering around a communist state. Beijing is preparing to take on a more robust and commanding role in international politics. That's under the banner of the Chinese Communist Party and its leader Xi Jinping. At a foreign affairs meeting this week, Xi sought to introduce a Chinese solution to the global community. And the end goal is reportedly to dominate the, quote, commanding heights of international morality and win over most parts of the world. According to Beijing's media mouthpiece CCTV, the meeting stressed that all foreign policies must be guided by Xi and the CCP's doctrines, and that all one-sided actions, such as economic and political sanctions, are firmly opposed. Beijing is ramping up pressure on Taiwan 2 weeks before its presidential election. All eyes are on the upcoming vote. It's set to decide how Taiwan handles future relations with China. On Thursday, a spokesperson for China's defense ministry hinted at a warning. He said, the Chinese army knows Taiwan's military movements, adding that China would do all it can to defend its sovereignty. This comes after Chinese leader Xi Jinping on Tuesday vowed to reunify the island. Beijing uses terms like sovereignty and reunify to describe its view of Taiwan because it sees the island as part of China. That's despite Taiwan never having been ruled by the communist regime. Xi made the remark while commemorating the birth of Mao Zedong. Mao established today's communist China in 1949. His army expelled China's then ruling power, which fled to today's Taiwan. How does it relate to the U.S.? Taiwan sits on a critical line of defense. It's part of a chain of islands that prevents China from launching submarine-based nuclear attacks against the U.S. Plus, over 90% of America's advanced semiconductors come from Taiwan. These microchips are critical for all modern technology, from cars to missiles. Just a day after Xi's comment, China threatened trade sanctions against Taiwan. That's if the island's ruling party chooses to support Taiwanese independence. The current ruling party, the Democratic Progressive Party, is more defiant against the communist regime, while the main opposition party, the KMT, prefers close ties with China. Both have said Taiwan's people can decide for their own future. The DPP's presidential candidate William Lai now leads in the polls. 12 Chinese warplanes flew near Taiwan on Thursday. The island's defense ministry said so far there are no signs of large-scale Chinese military activities, but that they would keep a close watch on the situation. A popular Taiwanese rock band caught in a tough spot. Either publicly declare that Taiwan belongs to communist China or risk facing issues with their concerts there. What happened when the rock stars said no? Let's zoom in.
China, according to Reuters sources, pressured popular Taiwanese rock band Mayday to make pro-China comments ahead of Taiwan's key elections next month. A Taiwan security note Reuters has seen says China's National Radio and Television Administration asked Mayday to publicly voice support for Beijing's claims that democratically governed Taiwan is part of China and to join China's media propaganda on Taiwan. The band, who are among the most successful Taiwanese artists in China, recently faced allegations on Chinese social media that they lip-synced during one of their concerts. Sources say Chinese authorities asked the band to provide unspecified political service, but the rock stars did not agree to the request. In response, the source said authorities threatened an investigation against Mayday for lip-syncing and a fine. Taiwan officials have repeatedly warned in recent months that Beijing is trying new methods to interfere in Taiwan's presidential and legislative elections and win support for pro-China candidates.
Next, economic updates from China. A state-owned bus operator in central China is suggesting a new career path for its employees, starting their own businesses. The company shared the proposal in a notice last week as a way to tackle its financial challenges. Here's how it works. For employees who've been working there for 10 years or more, they can take a 2-year break to try out entrepreneurship. They'll keep their job status, rank, and service length, but there won't be regular pay, bonuses, or allowances. An employee in China's state-owned transportation system called the measure a disguised layoff, saying the company might be unable to pay salaries.
There must be something wrong with the local fiscal situation. It's true that there's less bus ridership. With fewer jobs around, fewer people are commuting.
Another alarming indicator in China's troubled economy: the skyrocketing youth unemployment rates. Over 11 million Chinese college grads entered the job market this year only to face a tough situation. In June, the urban youth unemployment rate in China hit 21%. Although officials stopped publishing jobless data in August, the impact is visible. Videos shared online reveal a unique refuge for the unemployed in major cities like Beijing and Shanghai: public libraries. These spaces have become sanctuaries for overburdened job seekers with free amenities like air conditioning, hot water, and charging outlets. Zooming out to the market, Beijing's big 5 state-run banks are slashing deposit rates. It's the latest move to help stabilize the Chinese economy as it grapples with losses. The rate cuts are the 3rd this year. According to the bank's websites, 1-year deposit rates are down to 1.45%, while 3-year rates now sit at 1.95%. The current deposit rates are the lowest for Chinese banks since 1996, and the goal is to reduce pressure on banks to keep investment profitable. That's as China's economy grapples with slow growth, in part driven by severely indebted local governments and a real estate sector in crisis. Experts predict even more measures to alleviate pressure and manage debt in the coming year. An illness outbreak is still ravaging China despite authorities reporting low numbers of cases. Residents in the northern Shandong province report that there has been a rise in sudden deaths among the middle-aged and elderly locally. Here's what they had to say.
Every household has someone catching a cold. Authorities say it's the flu, but it's actually the new type of COVID-19. Many people in their 40s and 50s have passed away. I know of about 4 or 5 cases. One of them caught a cold and just died at home while sleeping.
1 or 2 colleagues of mine just suddenly died. They were between 50 and 55 years old. They were fine and had no major underlying illnesses.
Residents from other northern cities reported similar situations.
This disease deteriorates very rapidly. Among my colleagues, some are not old, around 50 years old. Suddenly, some felt uncomfortable while working, laid down, and suddenly died. Some were waiting for a bus, suddenly collapsed and died.
A particularly abnormal phenomenon is the sudden death of many young people. At the end of last month, a colleague of mine who was in his 30s and usually very healthy suddenly collapsed and died during work.
Meanwhile, Chinese media reported the death of a well-known Chinese financial media personality. Business journalist Maggie Luo died on Christmas Eve at the age of 36 due to severe pneumonia. Luo wrote on social media WeChat that she had developed a fever on December 20th. She passed away 4 days later.
Next, we would like to take a moment to share some of your comments. Rodrigo Palma asked, who would want to do business with a single-thought dictatorship that threatens everyone with invasion and re-education? And Joseph wrote, thanks for all the hard work. Have a safe New Year's evening on December 31st and a very happy and prosperous New Year in 2024. The entire China in Focus team would also thank all of you for your support and wish you a Happy New Year. Don't forget to tell us what you think of today's show, or if you have an idea for something you would like to see us cover, send us an email at chinainfocus@ntd.com. That's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We're now sharing a shortened version of our program here after being demonetized for more than 2 years. If you'd like to support us, consider donating. Find us at donorbox.org/China-in-focus or subscribe to our partner platform, Epoch TV, where you can watch our full episodes. Here's what to look out for in our second half. Tensions soaring on the Korean Peninsula. War drums echo as Pyongyang readies its military, arms, and nuclear sectors for possible war. And Shenyun Performing Arts kicking off its 2024 season in the U.S. Audience members in Houston, Texas share takeaways with NTD. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Don Ma. See you soon.